Hi, Kirsty.
Hey, Kat.
How are you?
I am here. That's one of my things at the moment. I am here.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very, very much for joining us today, Kirsty. I'm going to do a little tiny introduction in case anyone's already on here, and to give people a little bit of time to find us. Our home retreaters, we're on day 5 today. So this is Kirsty Norton, and well, I guess you were a vinyasa teacher, and now you teach all sorts of other kinds of things, much more relaxing, feeling stuff. We've got people who said that they have enjoyed the class. So hello, everybody. Loved the class, and it was relaxing to the feeling body today. So that was an amazing class, and a very gentle, soothing class.
Yeah. Well, as you know, most of my work is all about calming the nervous system. So I just really try and feed that in especially right now.
Yes. Can I ask you about how your lockdown has been, Kirsty?
You may. I think the one word that sums it up is intense. It's been, I thought I was quite well prepared, actually, because I'd been away in India for a month, and that had been pretty intense. So I was at the beginning, I was like, yeah, I've got this. And, you know, life didn't feel like it was going to change that much. But the intensity that rose was something I just, you know, really had to pull on all my tools to help navigate through. And my daughter has been struggling with it, and it's been, you know, we've just met such ferocity, and she's met with such big emotions, and of course that has an impact. And I remember at one point, just like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I was like, my nervous system is so frayed trying to cope. I was coping. That it was like, wow. But within that intensity, of course, it's never just all one way. So then there was some, you know, I was hearing some beautiful stories of things that were going on for my friends, or I was having a lovely experience going for a walk in the woods, and my daughter was calm, and it was lovely, and I was just really lapping up those moments. And then it would return to this kind of other thing where it was just like my nervous system, I was just so triggered. And so finding it, you know, I'm a single parent, and in that, I do also get time off because her dad is amazing, but and he's right there too. But the intensity of just being all in and managing the bigger collective thing that is going on, and my own capacity has been quite intense.
Yeah, I think intensity is what a lot of folks have been sharing in terms of their experiences of lockdown. Because I think there's a lot of people who, as you say, parents are having a tricky time, people who are working, and the work is crazy at the moment that needs to be done. So even though I've been talking about, you know, this time of pause and simplicity, actually, there's a lot of intensity, and there's a lot of real stuff going on out there. I just want to say hello to everybody who has joined us. I'm looking down to see. Hi, Sandy. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Emma. Millie, I'm glad that you're going to do the class afterwards. Hi, Alex. Hello, Fiona. Laurel and Susanna, lovely class this morning. Lots of positive responses to your lovely, relaxing class.
Great. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
So what I'd love to do is jump straight in there and ask you for some hints about people who are frazzled, and, you know, when life gets overwhelming in general. Some tips.
Yeah, I mean, I do have quite a lot of experience in this. I am quite, you know, life has been quite overwhelming at points, and as you know, Kat, and I can only share what has been soothing and helping me, and in the hope that it helps you. But feel free to ask questions, and you know, I'm very sensitive to my nervous system. I burnt myself out quite a few times because I'm quite a driven person. And what has soothed me during this time, and what I've found extremely helpful, is keeping my teachers close. So those people that I respect and admire and turn to. Obviously, my spiritual side of the practice is is very key. So daily sitting, silent and still. It feels almost like I arrive in my seat and I feel the pounding and the pulsing and the intensity. And then if I just stay and sit through it, everything settles. Just like when water is all shaken up, eventually it will settle. And that's been key for my nervous system. And simplifying life right down as much as I can has been very, very key. So good rest, even when my body doesn't want to rest because it's caught up in that fight, flight, freeze situation. It's just keep going, got to do this. It's like it's putting that full stop in and going, no, I need to just shut down that cycle and remind my body what it is like to rest. So that's been key. And I'm quite resistant. I'm quite resistant to doing those things. So, being that personality that's quite a driver, I've had to retrain myself. I had to switch off the news. I mean, that's just I just had to do that. It's just no good for my nervous system. What else? Tending to my needs, baths, salt baths, hydrating, fundamental things that I suppose I take for granted sometimes. Getting out. I have a dog, so every day we were getting out, nature. Turning to I mean, there's many different elements to it, and I suppose I hum a lot. Humming soothes the vagus nerve, so I work with sound, and so I've been humming lots of humming.
Stop.
Rewind.
I know. What is the vagus nerve? Why do we need to know about the vagus nerve?
So the vagus nerve. So within our nervous system, the nervous system is, I mean, we're all so interconnected, but it's connected up into the brain, and you're looking to soothe the vagus nerve because what that does is start to calm the nervous system. So the vagus nerve starts here behind the ear. So on this kind of ridge behind here, it comes down here. And then there's a plexus of nerves that sit here. So something as simple as pressing my hands one on top of the other, pressing into that area, soothes me. So if you're watching and you want to give it a go, it is calming because it presses on this complex set of nerves and just starts to soothe the nervous system, the vagus nerve. And so when you're humming, of course, you're vibrating. And you're just soothing and self-soothing. So some people have said to me, oh, my mum used to always hum. It used to get on my nerves. And my mum did as well. I hum. And I do notice that I hum when I'm nervous. It is a way of self-soothing.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm only just now thinking, hum at various points. That's a very interesting thing. So you're a hummer. Is there a particular practice, a humming practice, or is it just something that you'll do around the day, sort of as you're showering and things? Or
yeah. So I mean, there is Brammery. There's the bee breath that you can do, where you can shut off your senses and you can hum like that, and you can feel the buzzing going on. But mine is very simple. It's just humming, and I will hum not to necessarily a tune. It's just a case of just slow, steady little hums. And I work with sound a lot anyway, the frequency of vibration, and it just soothes and grounds me.
Oh, that's lovely. I'd love to hear other people's views. Oh, we've got a few people. Hello to Tash. Oh, you're going to have to go halfway through, but it's lovely that you're here now. And hello, Heidi. And be lovely to hear if anybody here is a hummer for soothing the nervous system.
You may even be a hummer and not realize that's also part of it.
Right. Because it's quite a subconscious thing to do.
We are miraculous beings. We know, we have the power to know what to do to soothe ourselves if we just give ourselves the space and time to listen to what the body tells us. It's giving us messages all the time. All the time. We have it. We know what we need.
Yeah. Gong baths. I like that. Are you a gong bath fan, Kirsty?
I am a gong bath fan. Yes, I am. I work a lot with different sounds as well. The gong baths can be quite intense, and the idea of entrainment is that you get a room full of grandfather clocks, and you've got them all ticking at different times, and then by let's say the end of the day, they're all ticking in time, and that's the idea of all of this sound work, is that everything entrains. So like me coming off the news, I couldn't entrain myself to the news because it wasn't the right. I don't want to get a bit too kind of technical here, but it just wasn't. It was just promoting more fear in my nervous system, which I didn't really need.
Right. That sounds. This is interesting. So gong bath soothing, best sitting up and the vibration goes through. Raki, not a hummer, but long exhales and hands the heart. Yvonne, I hum, but never really thought about why I do it. So that's quite interesting. Maybe we can all just start. I'd love to hear it. If everybody could have a practice humming around the house for the next couple of days and see.
There's a whole book on humming. By Jonathan. Yeah, it's incredible. Just try it, see what happens.
So that sounds key. And I know that you do a lot of, as you said, sound work. Tell me about that. What does that involve?
I mean, to be fair, the journey started with me trying to find my voice. And then I started exploring sound and this idea of, especially as women, we haven't been encouraged to share our voices more. So it really started from that place of finding my voice. And during that exploration, I ended up doing some training with sound healing with voice and workshops around that and what it meant to make sound, not necessarily singing, but allowing the sounds to come from within. And then, of course, I worked with the gongs and the bowls and the frequencies and just started understanding, I turn to my body a lot. My body tells me, and all of you watching, your bodies will tell you what was working for you and what isn't working for you. So if you can tune into that and start to learn and listen, because a lot of us have been in overdrive, and when we don't slow down, we can't hear what's being told to us. For me, sound is very powerful in that way, because I lie down, receive the sound, and it's like, oh, okay, right. I really feel like I've dropped into a different state, which I have, because the brain, the sound works on the brain. So of course, when the brain sort of calms down and drops into a different state, you hear about alpha, theta, beta states. When it drops into a different state, you're calming the nervous system. So it all feeds in.
Interesting. Yeah. And tell me a bit about your sort of journey in relaxation, Kirsty. Like how, all the different things that, so I know that you've done a lot of work here.
Yes. I'm really interested in how to keep our bodies as close to a steady state as possible. And I suppose, like most people's, when I burnt myself out, then I had to go on a journey of healing myself.
I do hope. Oh,
we hear. I can see you.
Oh, excellent. Can you just repeat that? Because I couldn't hear you. I'm not sure if everyone could. So.
Okay, let me repeat that. So can you hear me now?
I can.
So I burnt my nervous system out. So that, of course, then I had to go on a journey of understanding burnout, what had happened to my body, and how to then heal it. So because I had burnt it out, then of course I have to go into this state of deep rest, which is why most of my classes are very soothing, very calming, very simple. They've got a lot of study behind them and integration in my own being. And one of the things that I learned along the way of teaching was that at the beginning, I'd want to tell people all about it. And then I realized I was keeping their brains too engaged. So I learned to just allow the process to be integrated in my own body and then give them the tools so that they could practice it and feel it in their own body. And lots of teachers do this. It's not unusual and unique, but the more simple I can make something in this complex world, the better. But it's all, I study the somatic experiencing, the trauma release work, working with sound to release trauma from the body, working with shaking to release trauma from the body. All of these things that, you know, I didn't realize how much trauma I held in my body. And so this exploration has been all about shaking it, releasing it in a somatic way, sound, rest, deep, deep rest, and finding my voice within that, and not taking on the pressure of almost how I used to be of like, oh, but I've got to prove myself, which is quite understanding, you know, quite understandable. But as I've got more experienced and over the years, I've just realized to sort of make it more simple and let people integrate it into their bodies.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So a lot of sound work at the moment. Now we've had a really interesting question. Gong bath classes on MFML, or wouldn't it really work? What do you think, Kirsty? Would or wouldn't it?
I think it would work personally. I think it's a case of getting the audio. Yeah, of course. I think it would work.
Great, let's do it. Okie doke. Okay. There we are, Emma.
We can only try. Look, you know, we do it, and then you guys let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a great idea. Let's do it. And I think
people are doing it online now. You know, gongs can be quite tricky with audio, so we'd have to work that out. But there are people doing it, and it does work.
I think we should do it. Millie, I find that being on social media technology so much a part of life in lockdown. It is important for the social connection. Being on a phone or device is not good for the nervous system. Absolutely right. Kirsty, you do regular digital detoxes, don't you?
Yeah, I will often do that. And in fact, I'm on a social media digital detox at the moment because there's so much happening behind the scenes for me that I don't need to be there. As of yesterday, I was like, okay, I need to withdraw to gather what I'm gathering together to help people post, you know, lockdown, if you like, as we integrate. So I need to resource myself. So being on social media is not resourcing myself at the moment. Resourcing myself is being off social media. And that's a big thing about resourcing. And a big thing of what I've done is keep 70% of the attention on myself, even while I'm on this call. And I would recommend everybody else do that. And you keep 30% out there, because it's about resourcing ourselves, not leaving ourselves.
Wow. That's amazing. So talk me, I've never heard about that. Talk us through it.
So if you think about it, a lot of us will put all of our attention into something. If we're on a Zoom call, let's use that, you know, you're putting all your attention onto it. You're all there and you come off and you're exhausted, you're frazzled. Yeah. A lot of people are, not everybody, a lot of people are. Or at the end of the day, they're drained. So you can do things like sit back just a tiny bit more, keep 70% of your attention on yourself, keep checking in with yourself. How am I drinking? So you start to bring the attention back into yourself, and you've got 30% attention outside. And you can do this with people in your life as well. You can look just above the computer, so you're not always staring at the screen. And stare out of the window a bit. So I'm going to talk specifically about computers, since that's where most of our attention's been, perhaps. So you're just keeping 70% for yourself. So you're resourced. And you can use this in all sorts of ways. 70-30.
So I love the idea of looking a little bit above the computer screen when we're all doing our calls and things. And looking out onto, because what I sometimes try to do is look out onto a longer horizon, because I think that otherwise I'm only always looking a foot in front of me.
Yes. So there's two aspects to this. So of course we're used to being around each other, and we co-regulate our nervous systems from being around people. And then in lockdown, some people are on their own. So they haven't got that ability to co-regulate. So Zoom can actually be very useful. At the best, you know, better in person, but you can use it to look. everybody, look at everybody, see them, see their faces, look, and then you can come back and and you can pause, just take a pause for a moment. Everybody, let's all just take a pause. Just take a moment. You can put your hands on your body. I get really excited talking about this stuff, but I have to come back to myself. Yeah. Yeah. And as women, I don't know if there's any men watching, but I'm going to speak specifically to the women or the feminine. We are used to giving. We are used to giving so much. So just rearranging that. So
Now we've got some really interesting questions. Could you explain rest? Is this different from reading or sleeping?
So napping in the day is going to be different from sleeping. Knowing when you start to pay attention to when your body needs rest, yes, you could absolutely read. But perhaps what your body needs is a nap. And I would say that sort of rest, not taking anything on, not engaging your brain outside, but just coming back to yourself and resting, whether or not you fall asleep, but just taking a moment is different to sleep. Now, sleep works in you've got, your brain is actually more active when you're asleep because it's sorting, processing, sending signals around the body, your cortisol levels lower. Your sympathetic nervous system relaxes, that lowers blood pressure. So that's a lovely thing that happens in sleep. It's wonderful we have sleep every night. And then rest, especially if you're overstimulated. And it may not feel like, it might feel quite hard to rest for some of us.
Interesting.
In the cortisol jungle.
Right. What I have found, because I'm too strung up always. I can't nap. So I need guided naps, and which is why I do yoga nidra. It's like a guided nap. Is that something that you do, or?
Absolutely. I would recommend that over, each person, if you can do a yoga nidra once a day or twice a week or something like that, do it. I mean, we've spoken about this before. I think if there was one thing, yoga nidra.
Yeah.
One thing right now our bodies need.
Yeah. I agree. I think that all the other things a little bit unnecessary. Yoga nidra, because also you were saying a lot, Kirsty, about the listening to your body and being aware of what you need. Now, as somebody who, I'm very much, I love yoga, but I'm not a yogi. I live very much in a normal life. I run a business. And do I always listen to what my body needs? No, not really. Most of the time, I've got no clue what it needs. So for me, I found yoga nidra to be a really useful way of tuning in to my body.
Absolutely. And I think that is a really important point. It's not about listening every minute of the day, but these gentle little things of simple, getting the fundamentals in there, taking a moment to rest and check in and go, oh, how am I doing right now? How am I doing? Yeah. That's it. It could be when you're going to make a cup of tea. How am I today? What is it I need? That could be it. That might be your one check-in for the day. Or you might be getting your anxiety coming up. You might have something come. That is your body speaking to you, and that is so right there. And it's that's your body calling it on a stronger level. And I've been there. I've had anxiety. Again, this is all part of the journey of calming the nervous system. But you're right. It's just it's not another thing on your to-do list. Almost, it's just a remembrance of oh, here I am. That's the beginning where we started. I'm here. Here I am.
Yeah, I love that. Alex says the 70-30 thing is amazing. I always give too much. So this is really resonating. That's amazing.
Well, I tell you where this is. I did a training with Marianne Kaplan, who talks about yoga and the psyche and relates all, this work in somatic experience. Trauma work is about just remembering 70-30.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Maybe we can put a little list of some of the resources that you've mentioned. You might be able to jot them down so that we can have a look at that.
Yes.
Lisa's just retreated from social media today for a long weekend. Yes, I love doing it weekends to prioritize me and my family, for extra space. And I think, gosh, if you can do social media, I don't think, it's nice if you find a sort of group like this, or really supportive groups where people are real and you're able to support each other. But otherwise, there's that kind of scrolling, waiting to find something interesting on social media is
it's also been set up it's addictive because it's set up in a way that promotes our, certain chemicals in our head to, fire up. So we're always looking for that hit, the dopamine hit. So if you can just take a day off your phone. Monday I took a day off my phone and I managed till about 6. When you're taking like a few weeks off, you'll like notice at the beginning, I had the luxury of doing that. At the beginning I was like going to check it, and then soon you forget about it. But if you're doing like I did this day on Monday, I managed to get till 6 before that, like that little, bit of me that's like, oh, I've got to check, So it's fun to do. Fun to do, is that the right word? It's helpful to do. I actually felt very replenished after it.
And I think it's an interesting experiment if we do that and then just see how you feel. Check in, see if there's any difference. I must say, that's it.
Like we have to test them for ourselves. We can stand there and go, do this, do that, but actually, until somebody takes it into their own experience, they don't know. And then, these are all things to try and see how it works.
Yeah, that's right. And that's good. This is resonating with Millie. And Fiona says, I love this idea. I always feel I have to give 100% attention. And I must say, I'm very similar. When I'm on any call, I always sort of sit forward, lean in, furrow my brow, focus, and do all those things which I'm thinking like, right, but actually you finish and you're just like, goodness me, I'm exhausted and I need to have a break. Yeah. So that is something that's really, that's a really nice, I think it's offering people permission, isn't it? It's offering us all permission that we don't have to be that 1,000,000% on all the time.
Another good thing to do is to look where you are, the room that you're in, to bring yourself back in, because this is all related to the nervous system, of course. So you just take in the different textures, notice where you are, and just broaden and remember, oh, here I am. Okay, great, I'm here. Because we can, so it's just broadening that view so that you are not swallowed up by technology. I'm using that quite dramatic language, but you all know what I mean. Because we're still here, I'm still listening, you're all still in, we're here, but we're also here in our environments.
Yeah, right. Because we do also, what I do is I go into my head a lot, and I have entire, little stories, scripts, things, everything going on in the head. And then I think that's the beauty of just that look around and be, okay, my body is still here. Like, even though I've been on multiple journeys or whatever.
Yeah, and we're all doing that all the time. We're all doing that.
That's interesting. And Tash is, I love this. On sunny days, recently I went to lie in the garden and listen to the birds. Now I know to call it a rest. I will try to find a way to do this even when it's raining.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the rain. I've fallen in love with the rain many years ago, but I fell in love with it. It's so beautiful. I'm so happy you're going to do that.
Absolutely. And I think that it's just really interesting, isn't it? Because this thing about resting is actually, I was talking to somebody on the retreat who was sort of saying, we all get, and the part of the thing after lockdown is our calendars will start to fill up and people will be, great, when can we meet up? When can we socialize? And before we all know it, we're all going to have the same busy calendars, and then we won't have that time to rest. So I was sort of trying to say, well, what about the idea of coming clean to your friends and saying, no, I'm busy that weekend, I'm busy resting. Rather than sort of, we all feel we have to make, you feel like you have to make something up. Like, no,
I think
I
our
can't
bodies
do
are going to tell us quite quickly that we're not going to be able to go at the same capacity.
it.
Generally, we become very sensitive, especially I mean, I can only speak from my experience, but the people in my kind of, that I do a guided sleep thing, there's been meetups on the beach, and actually people are like, oh my God, I'm just exhausted, and don't worry, it's all socially distanced and stuff, and only a few of us, but it's like, actually, I don't have the capacity right now. So again, listening to the body as we go back into this next chapter, because I can't call it normal, because it's not, for me. But I just think softer, gentler, easier. These words have been easing me so much. Gentler, easier, Kirsty, easier.
Yeah. And I think maybe to be able to spread the word to friends and to say, this is what I'm doing, it's pretty radical, because it would be a very normal thing to say, oh yes, I can fit you in at 5:30 on Thursday just before I dash off to do da 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 da, because that's what we're normally used to do. But actually to check ourselves and say, no, you know what, I'm keeping that day free. I can meet up with you in a couple of weeks from there. And just to consciously schedule rest. Do you schedule rest, Kirsty?
Yeah, I do. I have to. I have to.
Yeah,
it's been full on.
But it's a radical thing to do.
Yes, and the other thing is, it gives, even if it doesn't always land well, but it gives other people permission.
Yes.
Because we are, in how we treat ourselves, people are learning how to treat us, but also how to treat themselves, because they may not have considered it. Somebody said something to me yesterday where they said, oh, well, if that was me, I'd say no thank you. And I thought, I hadn't even considered I could say no in this situation. Of course I'm going to say no thank you. So in that, no is a complete sentence. I've read this many times, and it's like, no thank you is actually the one I'd prefer to say, because kindness is key right now.
Yeah, and I think that also gives other people permission to do that as well. I'm definitely going to be doing it. So to all of my friends out there, I'd love to see you, but there's a lot. There's too much.
There's a lot to navigate. Everybody's having different experiences. Everybody's going to have a different experience as we come out of it. And somebody I just saw wrote, for some reason, I have been much more tired through lockdown. Have others felt like this at all? That one just hopped up to me, because, there has been a collective shock. Even if people are having there is an element of shock. And so within that, yes, we are more tired, because there's been this like, and then we're starting to understand many other things, and we've got so many bits of information coming at us, and this is why the trauma work that trauma you can get everyday trauma, you can have big trauma, you can have like collective trauma, you can have so much. It's just it's almost like these baths, these moments of rest, these breathing, these kind of like just holding yourself tenderly, is not to be in like cuddles and just checking in, just say, oh, there you are, okay, there you are. This is very important as we come into this next chapter. So sorry, that just popped out, and I felt I needed to respond to that.
No, I love it. And I think it's really interesting how we are sort of giving ourselves here permission to find different ways of how is it that we can, slow down, but how will that look in practicality? And I love that of take a little pause in the middle of the conversation and checking in. Look at your eyes. Still here.
Check in. Just keep checking in.
That's a really beautiful thing to say. And I love Yvonne said, I just say I have a date with myself. That's cool. So I'm going on a date tonight. It's date night tonight.
And it's okay to make plans and change them.
Oh gosh, because that's the other thing, isn't it? Because none of us want to we want to commit, we want to be somebody reliable and trustworthy, so it doesn't have a good name to do that, when you flake out on people.
I suppose what I'm trying, hold on, let me put it a bit more in context then, because okay, let's say you've made a plan to see somebody that you really, really want to see, and then you get to the day and you're flawed. You speak to that person and say, I am flawed. I do not have the energy. I am longing to see you. You know, you have a conversation. You don't just cancel. I don't just cancel. I put it in context for them because, you know, I am valuable. I have a, you know, I am valuable. I am valuable. Therefore, you know, if I'm pushing myself too much, it just has repercussions for me that, you know, are not worth it.
Well, I think maybe the difference is that you've taken a moment to notice the repercussions, and your body has told you in some pretty sort of serious health implication ways that you must take that and you must take it seriously. And I think that a lot of us don't listen until we're forced to. So I think to be able to actually do it before our bodies force us to is really key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And resourcing ourselves. You know, we wanna feel resourced in this time. So whatever resources you, and what I mean by that is like it's like nourishing ourselves. What does nourish ourselves? You know, be discerning. Who do you want to be hanging out with? If you have that luxury of choice, you know, let's say your work isn't necessarily want to be, but you put that in a context and you're like, okay, well, it gives me this, but like be discerning about where you're investing your money. Like we can, you know, there's such a big conversation, but it's like resource yourself so that you have a capacity to be able to listen and hear what it is you need, and also be kind and considerate to those around you and who you're spending time with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And yeah, it's interesting. There's a difference between being a flake and communicating well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I can be very harsh with myself. And I think that I immediately would say to myself, don't be a flake, but actually, no, communicate well. And that's the sign of that.
I was a flake for ages at the beginning when I didn't like value, you know, I really was. When I say at the beginning, I mean as I was growing up, because I didn't realize, you know, I'd make plans and I'd want to do everything, and then it would just get to a point where my body was saying no, but I didn't quite understand myself, or I wasn't in communication enough with myself to really get that. So, you know, there'd be parties that I didn't turn up to or go to, or I'd leave early, and, you know, and I suppose I was a bit flaky about it, but really what I was doing was learning my own capacity and needs. But now you know, it's having those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good one. And this is interesting. Sue Matthews got a couple of interesting points. Felt very tired and been sleeping like a log. I have to pace my day carefully, and I like that. So I think lockdown has brought a lot of tiredness to a lot of people, maybe because many of us are slowing down. I know that lots of people aren't, but when you slow down as well, you get a moment to realize how tired you are. And I think that's part of it. And yeah, thinking of the slow movement, which started in Italy as a response to fast food. And I love that, the slow movement for modern life. That's better. That's better.
Oh, it's like nectar to my nervous system. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's easy to politely explain to our friends. It's a good tip. Yeah, and I love it. The no thank you. That's great. Yeah, and it's useful for Millie said, introverts, and people who don't get energy from going out into social situations when there is a lot of pressure on us. Because I think that is going to be the case when all the restrictions are lifted, everyone's going to suddenly say, right, let's meet and let's do things. And I'm terrified of that, because I don't get my energy from being out with people. I've had a lot more energy given the chance to be, you know, just restful and on my own. So
well, this is exactly it. Just trust your body. You know, each of us has such you know, variety of experiences, and you will know what is right for you.
Yeah, and I think that trusting, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and that's what rest gives you, because it gives you the capacity and the space to be able to hear and listen and receive. Rest gives you the time to receive what you need.
Yeah.
And one just thing that feels important to us is, like, you know, if you're feeling unsupported in any way and you haven't got the capacity to meet somebody, but you need something, maybe, you know, because everybody's having a variety, ask, like, could you make some food for me? Like, maybe come up like, look, I don't want to be cooking. Like, if somebody's on their own, I don't know why to say this, but if somebody's on their own, you know, and they're struggling, it's like, can we somehow support each other? Could you make me some food, or, you know, something? They just have some really honest, frank conversations. Even if you're an introvert, it can be, I'm an introvert actually, it can be very nourishing just to ask for a bit of support or something, and also really uncomfortable, but then when you get it, it opens up that person to be able to help you. And we're, you know, fundamentally human beings want to help one another. So it then gives somebody a purpose and goes, yes, I want to do this. And I think there's something really nice in that as we start to explore what our new normal looks like.
That's an amazing tip, Kirsty, and it's not one that I've heard, and I love it. That giving yourself the power to ask and have that uncomfortable conversation. That's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and it might not be uncomfortable for some people to ask, so just ask whatever you. Yeah, I think it's key that we turn to each other and get, you know, back to supporting each other.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it's so interesting. I've been reading a book called Quiet Too, which is beautiful, on the importance of finding peace. Another good book, The Power of Introverts in a World of Noise. I love the sound of that one. That sounds brilliant. So yeah, and there's people who I think
I'm looking for. I'm going to note these down.
Yeah, I know, right? There's a lot of good suggestions. It's a really lovely. It's such a lovely community that we're able to think of suggestions and ways that we can navigate our lives back in a way that does, I like that, resource us, make us feel stronger
held, supported, safe. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What other tips do you have for your return to not normal? Because I don't think there's going to be normal.
Hydration. It's like, I'm just trying, and there's so many things. I don't want to overwhelm people with suggestions. I think there's been a lot in this conversation, and what I would say is that, you know, trust your body. Simplicity is needed in this complex time. You know, Lao Tzu's quote of "to go fast, go slow."
That's great. I'm going to write that down.
You know, this ability to keep 70% of the attention on yourself, and of course, you know, the power of breath, movement, practices like yoga nidra, sound, of course. But there was something I found in my notes as I was digging around. You know, for me, big part of this has been going back to stories and myths of the, you know, they are. This is slightly, you know, storytellers have been telling these stories for years. They give us a lot of wisdom. So for me, I go back into these stories to find wisdom. But as I was looking around for things to bring here, I found something that I'd written down, and I can't see where normally I put a reference, but it's like a 10-point life simplification plan. So what I may do, with your permission, is perhaps jot something down as a little resource for people afterwards, a little PDF.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Using that as like some just gentle, simple things that they can do, they can refer to, because we're humans, we forget, we have to have things repeated to us over and over again, and that isn't being patronizing, it's a fact. So just repeating these. So I could create this little PDF as a little kind of a resource.
I would think that would be marvelous just for me, and if anybody else would think it was marvelous, I'm sure they would. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's really, really kind. That's a lovely thing.
So I'll do the words. If somebody can do, you know, like make it just, I'll try and make it like a nice infograph. So you can bung it on your mirror or your fridge. Then you've got something there just to glance at, remind you.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely, yes. Emma says, yes, please. Yeah, and Raki's got a lovely point. In fact, making space is about doing less and doing more to slow down might be another way of filling our time. That's funny. Yeah, but I think that's right. Go fast, go slow.
Yeah, I mean, look, when the wisdom teachings, they can break it down into those simple words: to go fast, go slow.
Well, that sounds really good to me. And talking with you is always a very, very restful experience. It feels, yeah, you feel this soothe the nervous system just by your presence. And your class today was so lovely. So tonight I'm going to be doing your yoga Nidra because it is fabulous. Yeah. And
I have happy memories of when we did that.
Yeah, that's right. Gosh, that was good. And hopefully Kirsty's going to be sharing some sound with us at some point. So that would be really
sure.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that.
So if there's no more questions, because I'm aware that it is probably time for us all to have a rest.
Yes, 70%. Bring it all back, 100%.
Yeah. And you'll stay online for a moment to see if there are questions, and I'll be there. And I know that people watch this afterwards, so we'll all be there to support you. And if you've got questions about how we can rest better, now is a very, very, very good time before your social life resumes, before the diaries fill. Just taking a pause. How is it that we're going to fit in our rest? How is it that we're going to support ourselves? That's brilliant.
What do I need to feel safe and supported? This is a question I wrote down.
What is it that I need?
Yeah.
And supported. Writing that. Excellent. All right. So on those wise words, I'm not going to see you guys for the weekend because I am having the weekend off. I am having a little rest. But I will see you all on Monday. And Kirsty, have yourself a very restful weekend as well.
I will. It's been really nice to share this time with you all, and Kat, so great to see you. Always so nice.
It's really good to see you, Kirsty, and it's so good to share with such a lovely, I'm feeling so much more peaceful with such a lovely, peaceful community. And the community, we're all here to support each other. It's great. I love it. Thank you. I'm very, 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 very grateful to you all, and for you all for contributing, because it's not easy either to do that. So thank you. All right. With much love to you. Take care. Bye.